Isaiah chapter 47 provides a historical analysis of Babylon's collapse, documenting the specific shift from imperial dominance to total subjugation. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 1 states, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Sitting in the dust is a sign of mourning, but it also describes the condition of the unhoused. It represents the state of a population being impoverished and pushed into the streets as their homes are burned or occupied by invaders. The ruling Chaldeans are removed from their seat of power. The era of being served in luxury is replaced by the reality of the streets. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 2 states, "Take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers." This top-down view of an ancient millstone illustrates the manual labor now required of the former elites. They must pack their own grinders to produce meal, transitioning from being served to performing the labor of slaves. To reach Persia as captives, these women must cross the Euphrates River. This requires them to remove their veils and bare their legs to wade through the water, actions that constituted a profound cultural shaming for Babylonian women. By forcing a delicate royalty into the visible, physical labor of a slave, the conquerors effectively dismantled the entire Babylonian social hierarchy. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 3 states, "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." The uncovering of nakedness refers to the specific vulnerabilities of captives in ancient warfare. Historical records indicate that forced marches often involved systemic physical abuse and the shaming of the defeated. This ancient stone relief shows a soldier driving forward burdened captives with his shield. It serves as physical evidence of the subjugation Babylonian citizens faced during their forced removal to Persia. The text frames this as divine vengeance. It is presented as a judgment executed with power that the Babylonian state cannot resist. The phrase, "I will not meet thee as a man," implies that God is acting with an almighty authority, rather than through the limited, negotiable terms of human conflict. This judgment is defined by reciprocity. Babylon is made to experience the same shaming and suffering they previously inflicted upon the nations they conquered. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 4 states, "As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel." The title Lord of Hosts identifies this Redeemer as a commander of armies. In this context, redemption is not a spiritual abstraction, but the physical removal of the Babylonian power structure to allow for the exile's release. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 5 states, "Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms." Babylon's era as a global power ends. The city described as the jewel of the world is silenced and enters a period of permanent obscurity. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 6 states, "I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst shew them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke." The Babylonian exile began because the people of Judah had turned to idolatry, leading the Lord to allow their capture by foreign powers. However, King Nebuchadnezzar and his people exceeded their mandate. They treated the Jewish captives with a level of cruelty that the text describes as merciless. Specifically, the Babylonians are accused of placing an unjustifiably heavy yoke of labor and suffering on the elderly and the most vulnerable exiles. Because Babylon failed to show mercy to its captives, it is now denied mercy in its own defeat. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 7 states, "And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it." Babylon was defined by a delusion of permanence, the belief that they would remain the chief city and mistress of the world indefinitely. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 8 states, "Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children." This sense of security was built on the unmatched scale of the city's physical defenses. Historians record that Babylon's walls were up to 200 feet high and 87 feet thick. They were protected by 100 brass gates and the Euphrates River, with a surface wide enough for 6 chariots to drive abreast. These fortifications, combined with years of stored provisions, led the ruling class to believe they would never experience the widowhood of a fallen kingdom or the loss of their citizens. By claiming "I am and none else beside me," Babylon adopted a posture of divine invulnerability, placing itself above the reach of any earthly calamity. This reliance on material strength created an ideological blindness, leaving the city leadership entirely unprepared for the speed of its eventual collapse. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 9 states, "But these two things shall come to thee in a moment in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries and abundance of thine enchantments." The warning of destruction arriving in a moment in one day was fulfilled by literal historical events. In 538 BC, Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in a single night. By diverting the river, his forces entered the city through the dry bed, bypassing the walls and killing King Belshazzar before a siege began. A second, more brutal fulfillment occurred in 522 BC, during a rebellion against the Persian king Darius. During that siege, Babylonian men chose to strangle their own families to conserve food supplies, literally fulfilling the prophecy regarding the loss of children. Once Darius retook the city, he ordered the execution of 3,000 prominent citizens by crucifixion, ending Babylon's status as an independent nation. These historical accounts from 538 and 522 BC show that the predicted widowhood and loss of children were realized through both the actions of the conquerors and the extreme desperation of the Babylonians themselves. Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10 states, "For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, None seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me." This cuneiform tablet fragment represents the complex systems of astrology Babylonia relied upon to predict events. As the birthplace of horoscopes, Babylon trusted its intellect to provide security, believing their wisdom made them exalted above the reach of any external disaster. This arrogance led to a belief that their actions were invisible to any higher power, convincing them they were entirely unaccountable. This wide shot of the ruined ancient bricks and reconstructed walls provides physical proof of the city's final state of desolation. The site of Babylon stands as evidence that intellectual, economic, and military power cannot sustain a society built on arrogance and the oppression of others. This concludes our overview.